Chapter 6. LGBTQ+ Rights in the 21st Century, Progress and Backlash. 6.1 LGBTQ+ Rights, From Stonewall to Marriage Equality. The struggle for LGBTQ+ rights in the United States has evolved significantly since the Stonewall riots of June 1969, which many mark as the beginning of the modern LGBTQ+ rights movement. Before this moment, homosexual acts were criminalized in most of the country, and the American Psychiatric Association, APA, listed homosexuality as a mental disorder. The Stonewall riots were a tipping point for the gay liberation movement, providing a platform from which LGBTQ+ individuals could voice their demands for equal rights, free of persecution and discrimination. In the years following Stonewall, the first Pride parades were held, and groups such as the Gay Liberation Front and Gay Activists Alliance were formed. These organizations focused on various forms of social activism, from challenging police harassment to advocating for the rights to jobs and housing. A vital advance in the movement was made in 1973 when the APA removed homosexuality from the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, DSM, marking a significant change in societal attitudes toward homosexuality. The 1980s brought the AIDS crisis to the forefront of LGBTQ+ advocacy. As the disease primarily affected gay men at that time, widespread fear, misunderstanding, and homophobia exacerbated the situation. Activists battled not only a public health emergency, but also societal stigma. Groups such as the Gay Men's Health Crisis and ACT UP were instrumental in demanding government action, promoting safe sex education and extending healthcare provisions to those affected. Entering the 1990s, President Bill Clinton attempted to lift the ban on gay men and lesbians serving in the military. This resulted in the controversial Don't Ask, Don't Tell (DADT) policy, which allowed gay men and lesbians to serve as long as they concealed their sexual orientation. It represented a compromise that divided opinion and would not be resolved until the policy was revoked in 2011, marking a significant victory in the fight against LGBTQ+ discrimination in the military. In the realm of employment, the Employment Non-Discrimination Act, ENDA, which sought to outlaw discrimination based on sexual orientation and later gender identity, was introduced to Congress multiple times from the 1990s onwards. While never passed into federal law, these efforts set the groundwork for future legislation and demonstrated a growing recognition of LGBTQ+ rights as a legitimate and crucial area of civil rights. The new millennium marked the beginning of a significant shift toward marriage equality in the United States. In 2004, Massachusetts became the first state to legalize same-sex marriage. This watershed moment initiated a domino effect. Over the next decade, numerous states either legalized same-sex marriage or recognized civil unions. However, during this time, there was significant backlash. The Defense of Marriage Act, DOMA, signed into law by President Clinton in 1996, defined marriage as the union between one man and one woman for federal purposes and allowed states to refuse to recognize same-sex marriages granted under the laws of other states. It was not until 2013 that a significant portion of DOMA was struck down by the Supreme Court, in United States v. Windsor, ruling that same-sex spouses are entitled to the same federal benefits as opposite-sex spouses. Following the Windsor decision, the path to marriage equality gained momentum, with an increasing number of court cases challenging bans on same-sex marriage. Finally, on June 26, 2015, the Supreme Court ruled in Obergefell v. Hodges that the fundamental right to marry is guaranteed to same-sex couples by both the Due Process Clause and the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment to the United States Constitution. This historic decision made same-sex marriage legal in all 50 states and was celebrated as a monumental victory for the LGBTQ+ community. While marriage equality was a significant win, it did not signify the end of discrimination against LGBTQ+ individuals. Many states have continued to pass legislation that targets the rights of transgender people, such as laws that limit their use of public restrooms or restrict their ability to compete in school sports. These moves have prompted further advocacy and court challenges, highlighting the complex and ongoing nature of the fight for full LGBTQ+ rights. Another realm of contentious debate and policy making has been the protection of religious freedoms versus LGBTQ+ rights. Some businesses and individuals have argued their religious beliefs preclude them from providing services to LGBTQ+ persons, particularly in the context of same-sex weddings. This argument has led to high-profile legal battles, such as the Masterpiece Cake Shop versus Colorado Civil Rights Commission case, which brought national attention to the tension between anti-discrimination laws and the rights to free speech and free exercise of religion. Furthermore, despite advances, LGBTQ+ individuals still face health disparities, violence, and social marginalization. Transgender individuals, in particular, often encounter significant barriers to accessing healthcare, face higher rates of unemployment, and are disproportionately victims of violent crimes. Advocates continue to work tirelessly for the implementation of policies that would address these issues, such as more comprehensive hate crime legislation and better healthcare provisions that are sensitive to the needs of LGBTQ+ patients. Grassroots organizations and LGBTQ+ advocacy groups remain central to the movement's push for greater equality, working to promote the rights of individuals across the sexuality and gender spectrum. They provide support, education, and a platform for LGBTQ+ voices, ensuring that issues affecting these communities are brought to the attention of policymakers and the general public. The story of LGBTQ+ rights from the days of Stonewall to the realization of marriage equality chronicles a powerful journey of resilience, activism, and advocacy. It underscores the persistent endeavor for societal acceptance and equality under the law. However, it also illuminates the setbacks and challenges that punctuate this journey, reminding us that the march towards true equality is far from over. The experiences of LGBTQ+ individuals are diverse, intersecting with race, ethnicity, socioeconomic status, and more, thus demanding a nuanced approach to rights advocacy. It is clear that the progression of LGBTQ+ rights in the United States continues to unfold, and the outcomes of this progression will likely influence and shape the landscape of civil rights for years to come. 6.2 The transgender community, rights and recognition. The transgender community's quest for rights and recognition has been one of the most salient and rapidly evolving facets of social issues within the United States in the 21st century. The term transgender is used to describe individuals whose gender identity or expression differs from what is typically associated with the sex they were assigned at birth. As society has progressed in its understanding of gender as a spectrum rather than a binary, transgender individuals have gained visibility. However, with increased visibility comes increased scrutiny, and the lives of transgender people are often at the nexus of contentious debates regarding rights, healthcare, and identity. Initially, the struggle for transgender rights was overshadowed by broader LGBTQ+ issues, with the focus predominantly on gay and lesbian rights. This began to change as transgender individuals and advocates brought attention to the unique challenges faced by the community. High rates of violence, discrimination, and lack of healthcare access are among the primary concerns faced by transgender persons. These issues are often compounded by intersecting factors such as race, socioeconomic status, and age. Consequently, the movement for transgender rights has sought not only recognition, but also protections that intersect various aspects of public and private life. Healthcare access represents one of the most pressing rights issues for the transgender community. Access to gender-affirming care, including hormone therapy and surgical procedures, is a critical aspect of transgender healthcare. However, many health insurance policies have historically excluded these treatments, categorizing them as cosmetic or elective. Moreover, transgender individuals frequently encounter healthcare professionals who lack the knowledge or willingness to provide appropriate care. This lack of access has demonstrable negative effects on the mental and physical health of transgender individuals, and has become a focal point for advocacy and legislative action. Education is another sphere where transgender rights have come to the forefront. Issues such as the use of preferred pronouns, access to appropriate bathroom facilities, and participation in gender-segregated activities like sports provoke heated debates. Policies and legislation vary significantly across states and school districts, with some advocating for inclusivity based on gender identity, and others proposing restrictions designed to prevent transgender students from participating fully in school life. These policy battles have notable impacts on the well-being of transgender youth, who are already at higher risk for bullying, poor mental health outcomes, and suicide. In the employment sector, transgender individuals face significant barriers. Discrimination in hiring, job retention, and career advancement are pervasive challenges. Some employees may be fired or treated unfairly due to their gender identity or expression. On a positive note, an increasing number of companies are adopting non-discrimination policies that include gender identity, offering a glimmer of hope and validation for transgender employees. However, without comprehensive federal anti-discrimination laws, many transgender individuals remain vulnerable in their workplaces. On the legislative front, the fight for transgender rights has had a series of ebbs and flows. Landmark moments, such as the Supreme Court's 2020 decision in Bostock v. Clayton County, that the Civil Rights Act of 1964 protects employees against discrimination because of their gender identity or sexual orientation, offer protections at the federal level. Nevertheless, at the state level, legislative initiatives often diverge. Some states have passed laws affirming the rights of transgender individuals, while others have enacted or introduced bills that restrict these rights, particularly regarding bathroom access and participation in competitive sports. The transgender military ban, initially lifted under the Obama administration, only to be reinstated by the Trump administration, and then revoked again under the Biden administration, exemplifies the fluctuating nature of transgender rights in the U.S. This policy back and forth has had tangible consequences for the lives of transgender service members whose careers and identities were caught in the crossfire of political partisanship. Public accommodations and anti-discrimination laws have also been central to transgender rights advocacy. Access to public restrooms and locker rooms in accordance with one's gender identity has become a highly publicized issue, sparking discussions about privacy and safety. Critics of such access often cite unfounded fears and attempt to stereotype transgender individuals as predatory, while advocates point out that these narratives are harmful myths and that everyone deserves safe access to basic facilities. The intersection of the transgender community with the criminal justice system requires particular attention, as transgender individuals, particularly transgender women of color, are disproportionately affected by violence and are more likely to experience harassment and abuse both in and out of prison. Legal protections for transgender individuals in the criminal justice system are uneven, and encounters with law enforcement can be fraught with misgendering, discrimination, and a lack of understanding about transgender-specific issues. Family law, too, intersects with transgender rights when it comes to matters of marriage, child custody, adoption, and recognition of one's gender on official documents. Changes in legal identification documents, such as driver's licenses and birth certificates, are crucial for transgender individuals as they affirm their gender identity. However, the process for changing gender markers varies widely by state and can be intrusive and burdensome, requiring proof of surgery or court orders that may not be attainable for all. As the movement progresses, the importance of celebrating and recognizing the achievements and contributions of transgender individuals in society grows. Increasingly, transgender activists, artists, politicians, and public figures are gaining prominence and pushing the conversation forward, showcasing the talent and diversity within the transgender community. The endorsement of these individuals in their respective fields serves as an essential counterbalance to the discrimination and challenges that they face. Within the complex tapestry of transgender rights and recognition, a number of areas continue to be hotly contested. State and federal courts are often the battlegrounds where individual freedoms are either upheld or limited. Regardless of these challenges, the trajectory of the transgender rights movement has largely been towards greater visibility and acknowledgement of rights. Advocacy groups continue to fight for protections and societal acceptance, while many transgender individuals push for progress through everyday acts of courage and authenticity. Access to safe spaces where transgender people can share their experiences and find community serves as both a protective and empowering mechanism. From support groups to online forums, these spaces provide opportunities for transgender individuals to find solidarity and organize collectively. Through these shared experiences, the community builds resilience against the societal challenges they face. Finally, education and allyship play pivotal roles in the advancement of transgender rights and recognition. Understanding and empathetic allies, who may be family members, friends, coworkers, or advocates, can help break down barriers by amplifying transgender voices and speaking out against discrimination. Educational campaigns and diversity training that include transgender issues raise awareness and promote inclusivity. As society learns to embrace and protect transgender individuals, the hope is that the culture will shift towards one that values all human beings equally, regardless of gender identity or expression. 6.3 The Dual Faces of Progress and Backlash. The discourse surrounding LGBTQ+ rights in the United States has seen a significant evolution since the turn of the 21st century. This evolution has been marked by considerable strides in recognizing and legalizing the rights of the LGBTQ+ community, alongside persistent, often systematic resistance. The narrative is neither singularly optimistic nor wholly pessimistic, but a complex juxtaposition of progress and backlash that reflects the fluctuating societal, political, and legal landscapes of contemporary America. The legalization of same-sex marriage in the United States via the Supreme Court's landmark decision in Obergefell v. Hodges in 2015 stands as a pivotal moment of triumph for LGBTQ+ rights. This decision was the culmination of years of advocacy, legal battles, and gradual shifts in public opinion. The ruling not only ensured that same-sex couples could legally marry, but also signaled an institutional acknowledgement of their basic rights to equality and dignity under American law. The decision was a significant step forward, reinforcing the notion that civil rights do not hinge on sexual orientation or gender identity. However, this shift towards inclusivity and equality under the law has simultaneously incited opposition. Entities that strongly oppose same-sex marriage and other LGBTQ+ protections often cite religious freedom and traditional values as the basis for their counter-movement. The introduction of Religious Freedom Restoration Acts (RFRAs) in several states has been a central tool for opponents to LGBTQ+ rights, claiming such acts protect individuals and businesses that refuse to serve the community based on their religious convictions. The tension between protecting religious liberty and combating discrimination is a microcosm of the broader conflict over LGBTQ+ rights. While marriage equality was a significant victory, the fight for comprehensive anti-discrimination protections continues. Currently, federal law does not consistently protect LGBTQ+ individuals from discrimination in employment, housing, and public accommodations. The Equality Act, which aims to address these gaps, has faced considerable resistance in Congress. Lack of protection leaves many LGBTQ+ individuals vulnerable in critical areas of life, making it clear that legal progress in one domain does not necessarily translate into broader equality. Transgender rights represent another significant frontier in the landscape of LGBTQ+ rights, with progress and backlash occurring simultaneously. The increasing visibility and acceptance of transgender individuals have inspired policy changes that allow for identity expression, such as more flexible gender markers on identification documents. Medical advances have also made gender-affirming care more accessible to those who seek it. Despite these advancements, state legislation has been proposed and sometimes passed to restrict the rights of transgender people, with issues like bathroom access, participation in sports, and healthcare rights at the forefront of heated debates. In the arena of education, the rights of LGBTQ+ students have become focal points for both progress and pushback. Anti-bullying campaigns and inclusive policies have aimed to create safer school environments, while inclusive curricula seek to provide educational materials that reflect diverse sexual orientations and gender identities. On the other side, groups opposing such inclusivity contend that these policies infringe on parental rights and challenge traditional family values. The polarization around educational content and student rights is indicative of the broader cultural war over societal norms. Healthcare, both access and quality, remains a critical concern for the LGBTQ+ community. The Affordable Care Act, ACA, provided broad healthcare access gains. However, LGBTQ+ individuals still face unique barriers in receiving culturally competent care. Transgender individuals often confront significant obstacles in accessing gender-affirming treatments. On the flip side, some healthcare providers and institutions have sought to deny care to LGBTQ+ individuals based on their religious or moral convictions, further exacerbating these barriers. The representation of LGBTQ+ individuals in media and popular culture has increased, providing greater visibility to the community. More nuanced and diverse portrayals have challenged stereotypes and fostered a broader societal understanding and acceptance of LGBTQ+ individuals. Yet, backlash in the form of calls for boycotts, censorship, and social media campaigns against LGBTQ+ content reveals a segment of the population that is decidedly against these depictions, viewing them as an erosion of cultural norms. Political representation has also seen improvement as more openly LGBTQ+ individuals are elected to public office, advocating for policy change and the visibility of their constituents. This trend has contributed to putting LGBTQ+ rights on political agendas. However, the heightened visibility has also made LGBTQ+ politicians targets for harassment and hate speech, illustrating the visceral polarization around LGBTQ+ issues in the political sphere. Within religious communities, there has been a growing acceptance of LGBTQ+ individuals, with some denominations affirming same-sex relationships and ordaining openly LGBTQ+ clergy. However, many religious institutions hold firm to traditional doctrines and oppose any change, often serving as influential platforms for social and political opposition to LGBTQ+ rights. The global view on LGBTQ+ rights also impacts the United States. International human rights campaigns have formed alliances with American LGBTQ+ organizations, sharing strategies and exerting pressure on governments worldwide to uphold the rights of LGBTQ+ individuals. Despite these global initiatives, the international landscape varies widely, and negative sentiments from conservative countries can embolden similar views within the United States. This complex dichotomy of advancement and resistance underscores the ongoing struggle for LGBTQ+ rights. Each step forward is met with a response, often two steps in opposing directions. The intricate interplay of policy, law, public opinion, and cultural values continues to shape the fight for equality and the opposition to it. Consideration of this multifaceted dynamic is crucial in understanding where the United States stands in terms of LGBTQ+ rights today and what challenges lie ahead. The path towards affirming and protecting the rights of the LGBTQ+ community is not linear but rather a landscape of peaks and valleys, with every victory potentiating both momentum for further change and a counterforce striving to maintain the status quo. 6.4 LGBTQ+ Intersectionality, Beyond the Binary. The concept of intersectionality is critical to the understanding of LGBTQ+ issues, as it recognizes that people experience discrimination in multidimensional ways based on their overlapping identities. For LGBTQ+ individuals, these intersections can include, but are not limited to, race, gender identity, sexual orientation, socioeconomic status, disability, and religion. Intersectionality accounts for the unique challenges faced by individuals who belong to multiple marginalized groups. It emphasizes that while some LGBTQ+ individuals may face discrimination due to their sexual orientation or gender identity alone, others may experience multi-layered prejudice stemming from a combination of various aspects of their identity. The importance of exploring intersectionality within the LGBTQ+ community cannot be overstated. Members of the community are not a monolith. Their experiences and needs vary greatly. A white gay man may navigate life quite differently than a black transgender woman, just as a disabled bisexual Latinx person might encounter barriers distinct from those faced by an Asian lesbian without disabilities. Intersectional discrimination can manifest in various aspects of life, such as in employment, education, healthcare, and the criminal justice system, often producing compounding effects that can hinder one's access to resources and opportunities for advancement. In the realm of healthcare, for instance, LGBTQ+ individuals already face significant hurdles. These can include stigma from medical professionals, lack of provider knowledge concerning LGBTQ+ health needs, and at times an outright denial of care. When coupled with racial discrimination, the situation becomes even more dire. Studies have highlighted that LGBTQ+ people of color are more likely to experience poor health outcomes compared to their white counterparts. They face higher rates of mental health issues, HIV/AIDS, and certain cancers, yet are less likely to have access to necessary medical care. The reasons for this are complex, stemming from systemic racism and socioeconomic disparities to implicit bias within the healthcare system. The workplace is another arena where intersectional identities play a pivotal role in the experiences of LGBTQ+ people. Job discrimination remains a significant challenge, despite progress toward more inclusive work environments. While some states have laws protecting employees from discrimination based on sexual orientation and gender identity, these protections are not universal across the United States. When one adds race and gender into the mix, the picture becomes even bleaker. For example, transgender individuals experience unemployment at twice the rate of the general population, and for transgender people of color, the rate is 4 times higher. The discrimination they encounter can stem from overt biases or stereotypes, but also from subtler forms of prejudice, such as microaggressions and barriers to promotion or professional development opportunities. Educational settings are areas in which LGBTQ+ youth, in particular, may struggle with intersectional issues. These young people are working to navigate their identities in environments that can be unwelcoming or hostile. LGBTQ+ students of color face both racism and anti-LGBTQ+ sentiments, which can exacerbate feelings of isolation and contribute to higher rates of academic challenges, absenteeism, and higher school dropout rates. Furthermore, they may also lack access to role models or resources that reflect their intersecting identities, which is a vital component of educational success and personal development. The intersectional challenges that LGBTQ+ individuals face extend beyond personal experiences and into the broader social and political landscape. Legislation that seeks to protect the rights of LGBTQ+ people often does not consider the nuanced ways in which people experience discrimination at the intersection of their LGBTQ+ identity and other marginalized statuses. This has led to calls for more inclusivity in policy-making processes, so that laws and regulations can more effectively address the specific needs of the diverse members of the LGBTQ+ community. The backlash against progress in LGBTQ+ rights can also have an intersectional dimension. When conservative forces push back against advancements such as marriage equality, anti-discrimination laws, or transgender rights, the impact is felt most acutely by those who inhabit multiple marginalized identities. The political climate, which influences public opinion and policy, can exacerbate existing disparities and create a less safe and inclusive society for LGBTQ+ individuals. An essential part of the conversation about intersectionality in the LGBTQ+ community is recognizing the role of allyship. Allies who do not necessarily share these intersectional identities can be crucial in advocating for change and supporting those within the community. However, effective allyship requires an understanding of the complexities of intersectionality and a commitment to listening, learning, and taking action that supports all members of the LGBTQ+ community. The power dynamics within the LGBTQ+ community itself must also be scrutinized. Just as society at large grapples with privilege and power imbalances, so too does the LGBTQ+ community. Within the community, white, cisgender, and able-bodied individuals often have more visibility, voice, and resources. This can lead to the marginalization of those with intersectional identities, whose experiences may differ considerably from the dominant narratives presented within the community. For genuine progress to be made, there must be an acknowledgement and addressing of these intra-community differences. 6.5 Media Influence on LGBTQ+ Perceptions. Media has a profound impact on public perceptions, and its role in shaping attitudes towards LGBTQ+ rights cannot be understated. From news coverage to entertainment programming, the portrayal of LGBTQ+ individuals and issues influences how society views this community. For many years, LGBTQ+ representation in media was scarce, and when present, it often perpetuated negative stereotypes. While the visibility of LGBTQ+ characters and issues has increased significantly in the 21st century, the evolution of these portrayals has been complex, with both progressive advancements and persistent challenges. Early in the century, LGBTQ+ depictions in media were frequently characterized by tokenism, where the presence of such individuals in television shows and films was minimal and often intended to signify inclusivity without providing meaningful representation. These token characters were rarely given significant roles or depth, and their storylines often revolved around their sexual orientation or gender identity rather than a broader range of human experiences. This lack of substantial representation resulted in a narrow view of the LGBTQ+ community, limiting the public's understanding and empathy. However, as the media landscape broadened with the rise of social media and streaming platforms, the opportunities for diverse and nuanced LGBTQ+ storytelling increased. These new media outlets paved the way for content creators who are LGBTQ+ themselves or allies of the community to tell stories that had previously been marginalized or untold. Shows like Orange is the New Black and Transparent broke ground by featuring LGBTQ+ characters as complex individuals with multifaceted lives, moving away from stereotypes and allowing for a richer portrayal of the community. The visibility of transgender individuals in media has experienced both significant gains and considerable controversy. Transgender actors and characters are now more present in the media than ever before, bringing light to trans experiences and social issues. However, the casting of cisgender actors in transgender roles has been a point of contention, sparking discussions about authenticity and opportunity in the industry. While some argue that acting is about embodying characters different from oneself, many in the LGBTQ+ community stress the importance of representation both on-screen and off-screen, emphasizing that transgender actors can bring genuine and lived experiences to these roles. Media coverage of LGBTQ+ rights and issues has also evolved over time. Journalists are increasingly aware of the importance of using correct pronouns and terminology when reporting on transgender and non-binary individuals. Nevertheless, media coverage can still sometimes inadvertently spread misinformation or fail to provide a balanced perspective, particularly when sensationalizing or politicizing LGBTQ+ issues. The responsibility of the press to report accurately and sensitively on these matters is critical in influencing public opinion and policy. The impact of reality television on LGBTQ+ perceptions should not be underestimated. Reality shows such as RuPaul's Drag Race have brought drag culture into the mainstream, celebrating the art form and promoting greater acceptance of gender fluidity. However, while these shows offer visibility, they also risk trivializing the struggles of LGBTQ+ individuals by focusing on entertainment value over the reality of discrimination and inequality that many still face. Children's entertainment has slowly begun to include LGBTQ+ characters and themes. The inclusion of same-sex relationships and gender non-conforming characters in children's television shows, books, and movies raises questions about when and how to introduce concepts of sexual orientation and gender identity to young audiences. Proponents argue that early exposure promotes inclusivity and acceptance, while detractors claim that such content is inappropriate or unnecessary for children. The media's role in shaping young minds makes the debate over LGBTQ+ representation in children's programming particularly influential. Social media has played a unique role in the discourse surrounding LGBTQ+ rights. Platforms like Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram have allowed for the creation of support networks and the sharing of personal stories, amplifying LGBTQ+ voices that might otherwise go unheard. Advocacy campaigns and hashtag movements raise awareness and foster community, but they can also subject individuals to harassment and hate speech. The duality of social media, as both a tool for empowerment and a venue for discrimination, encapsulates the broader challenges facing the LGBTQ+ community in the media. The marketing and advertising landscape has also seen changes in LGBTQ+ representation. Brands increasingly include LGBTQ+ individuals and themes in their advertising campaigns, normalizing diverse relationships and identities. Pride Month, in particular, has seen an uptick in targeted advertising, with companies seeking to align themselves with values of equality and inclusivity. Yet, accusations of rainbow washing, where companies superficially display support for LGBTQ+ rights for profit, are widespread. The commercialization of LGBTQ+ culture prompts discussions on the authenticity of corporate allyship. Documentaries and journalism have the power to educate the public on the history and struggles of the LGBTQ+ community. Documentaries like The Death and Life of Marsha P. Johnson and journalistic endeavors that delve into the fight for marriage equality or the transgender military ban bring critical issues to the forefront. These works of nonfiction play a significant role in fostering understanding and empathy, creating a more informed society that can engage in discussions and advocacy around LGBTQ+ rights. It is essential to acknowledge international media influence as well. American media dominates globally, and its representation of LGBTQ+ individuals has the potential to influence perceptions in other countries. This global reach can promote human rights and challenge oppressive systems, but it can also provoke backlash in cultures with different values or legal frameworks regarding LGBTQ+ individuals. The international reactions to American media's treatment of LGBTQ+ issues highlight the complex dynamics at play when media crosses borders. Media's influence on perceptions of the LGBTQ+ community is an ongoing and evolving phenomenon. Greater representation and authentic storytelling have the potential to challenge prejudices and foster a more inclusive society. However, media also reflects the cultural tensions and biases that persist, making it a contested space where progress and backlash coexist. Understanding media's power in shaping public opinion is vital in advocating for LGBTQ+ rights and achieving lasting social change. 6.6 LGBTQ+ Youth, Challenges and Support Systems. LGBTQ+ youth in the 21st century face a variety of challenges that their heterosexual and cisgender peers often do not encounter. One of the primary issues confronting these young individuals is the struggle for acceptance. Both within their families and in the broader social context, LGBTQ+ youth may face rejection, which can lead to a host of psychological issues, including depression, anxiety, and a heightened risk of suicide. Such rejection is not limited to familial settings. It can also occur in schools, religious institutions, and social groups. Many LGBTQ+ youth are forced to navigate a delicate balance between being true to themselves and maintaining their relationships with unsupportive family members and friends. In the educational sphere, LGBTQ+ youth often face significant obstacles related to bullying and discrimination. Research indicates that these young people are more likely to be bullied than their non-LGBTQ+ peers, which can detrimentally affect their mental health and academic performance. Schools sometimes lack comprehensive policies to protect LGBTQ+ students, and even when such policies exist, they may not be effectively enforced. This lack of protection and support can lead to increased absenteeism and even a higher likelihood of dropping out, as students seek to avoid hostile educational environments. Healthcare is another domain where LGBTQ+ youth frequently encounter difficulties. Finding healthcare providers who are knowledgeable about and sensitive to LGBTQ+ health issues can be challenging, especially in less urbanized areas. Even with access to healthcare, young LGBTQ+ individuals may hesitate to seek medical attention due to a fear of stigma or misunderstanding from healthcare professionals. This is particularly true for transgender youth who may require specific medical interventions, such as hormone therapy, and for those seeking mental health support in light of the societal pressures they face. On the legal front, while progress has been made in many areas, there is still a patchwork of laws affecting LGBTQ+ youth across the United States. The variability of legal protections related to housing, employment, and education contributes to uncertainty and instability in the lives of many LGBTQ+ youth. Moreover, legal proceedings such as name changes or gender marker changes on identification documents can be complicated and costly, creating additional hurdles for young people seeking to align their legal identity with their gender identity. The media also plays a substantial role in the lives of LGBTQ+ youth, both positively and negatively. Increased representation in television, film, and social media can provide vital visibility and a sense of belonging. However, media portrayals are double-edged. Negative, stereotypical, or sensationalized representations can reinforce harmful prejudices and misconceptions. LGBTQ+ youth must often sift through mixed messages to find affirming and accurate depictions of their experiences. Despite these myriad challenges, there are powerful support systems that play a crucial role in the lives of LGBTQ+ youth. Many find solace in community through LGBTQ+ advocacy groups, online communities, and supportive school clubs such as Gender and Sexuality Alliances, previously known as Gay-Straight Alliances. These groups can provide a safe space for LGBTQ+ youth to express themselves, access resources, and connect with peers who share similar experiences. In addition to peer support, mentors and counselors who specialize in LGBTQ+ issues can be invaluable. These professionals can offer guidance, encouragement, and practical assistance in navigating the unique challenges faced by these young people. For LGBTQ+ youth who experience rejection from their immediate families, these mentorship relationships can be particularly influential, offering a form of surrogate family support. Educational initiatives and training programs have also emerged as powerful tools in supporting LGBTQ+ youth. By training teachers, administrators, and other school staff in LGBTQ+ cultural competency and the importance of creating inclusive environments, schools can become safer and more welcoming for all students. Anti-bullying programs that specifically address the needs of LGBTQ+ youth are essential in combating discrimination and establishing a culture of respect within educational institutions. In terms of healthcare, specialized services and clinics geared toward LGBTQ+ youth are becoming more common. These facilities often provide not only medical and psychological services, but also social support and legal aid, creating a comprehensive network of care. Moreover, many health professionals are seeking out additional training to better serve the unique needs of LGBTQ+ patients, aiming to make the healthcare environment more inclusive and informed. Legally, advocacy for LGBTQ+ youth continues to evolve, with organizations and activists working tirelessly to secure more consistent protections across all states. Efforts to enact non-discrimination ordinances, safeguard healthcare rights, and streamline the legal processes for identity changes are ongoing. This legal advocacy is crucial in providing a stable groundwork from which LGBTQ+ youth can grow and thrive. The story of LGBTQ+ youth in the 21st century is intertwined with both progress and backlash. While society has made strides in recognizing and upholding the rights of LGBTQ+ individuals, these young people still face significant resistance in various aspects of their lives. The continued evolution of social norms, legal protections, and support mechanisms will likely determine the trajectory of LGBTQ+ rights and acceptance in the years to come. It is the role of educators, healthcare providers, policymakers, support groups, and society at large to ensure that LGBTQ+ youth are not only protected, but celebrated for their unique identities and perspectives. The road ahead is paved with both challenges and opportunities, and it is imperative that we endeavor to create a world where all youth can feel valued and empowered. 6.7 Comparing LGBTQ+ rights across the globe. The state of LGBTQ+ rights varies significantly around the globe, reflecting diverse cultural, legal, and social landscapes. In some nations, the rights of LGBTQ+ individuals are legally protected and socially accepted to a high degree, whereas others impose severe penalties for non-heteronormative sexual orientation or gender identity. This complexity is reflective of different historical contexts, levels of advocacy, religious influences, and the pervasiveness of traditional gender norms. Western European countries such as the Netherlands have been pioneers in the recognition and protection of LGBTQ+ rights. The Netherlands was the first country in the world to legalize same-sex marriage in 2001. Scandinavian countries often follow closely in terms of progressive policies with robust anti-discrimination laws and provide widespread support for LGBTQ+ individuals, including the legal recognition of same-sex unions and adoption rights. These countries also typically rank high in public acceptance of LGBTQ+ individuals, which can be attributed to their secular societies and liberal political climates. In sharp contrast, there are countries, predominantly in Africa and the Middle East, where homosexuality is criminalized. For instance, in nations such as Nigeria and Saudi Arabia, LGBTQ+ individuals can face severe penalties, including imprisonment, corporal punishment, or even the death penalty. Such punitive measures are frequently justified by traditional cultural norms and interpretations of religious doctrine that view non-heterosexual orientations as fundamentally immoral or unnatural. The interpretation of religion plays a significant role in the global variance of LGBTQ+ rights. In predominantly Catholic countries, such as Poland and Hungary, there has been strong resistance to advancing LGBTQ+ rights, largely due to the influence of religious beliefs on public policy. However, some majority Catholic countries, like Argentina, demonstrate comparatively progressive attitudes toward LGBTQ+ rights, indicating that religion alone does not dictate policy. Latin America presents a mixed picture with respect to LGBTQ+ rights. Despite the strong presence of conservative social values and the Catholic Church, numerous Latin American countries have made strides in recognizing LGBTQ+ rights. For instance, Brazil, Argentina, and Colombia have legalized same-sex marriage. Nonetheless, the region faces significant challenges related to violence against LGBTQ+ individuals, and the enforcement of laws protecting them is inconsistent. In the Asia-Pacific region, progress on LGBTQ+ rights is uneven. Taiwan is a notable example, having legalized same-sex marriage in 2019, making it the first place in Asia to do so. However, in other parts of Asia, such as Indonesia and Malaysia, LGBTQ+ people face substantial discrimination and legal challenges. Many Asian societies remain deeply conservative, and advocacy for LGBTQ+ rights often confronts cultural resistance that hinders policy change. In the United States, LGBTQ+ rights have seen both significant advances and considerable controversy. The landmark Supreme Court ruling in Obergefell v. Hodges legalized same-sex marriage nationwide in 2015. Yet state-level policies and public opinion on LGBTQ+ rights vary, with some states enacting laws that restrict the rights of transgender individuals, such as those affecting bathroom access or participation in sports. This patchwork of policies across the country highlights the ongoing cultural and political debate regarding LGBTQ+ rights. Canada stands out as a country that has adopted a comprehensive approach to protecting and promoting LGBTQ+ rights. It has enacted federal anti-discrimination laws and legalized same-sex marriage, providing a wide range of protections for LGBTQ+ individuals. The country is also known for its open support of LGBTQ+ asylum seekers, reflecting a human rights-based approach to policy formulation and implementation. In Russia and several former Soviet states, LGBTQ+ rights are under considerable stress. Laws have been passed that restrict the freedom of expression regarding LGBTQ+ identities, such as the notorious Russian gay propaganda law. These laws have been criticized internationally for violating human rights and contributing to a hostile environment for LGBTQ+ individuals. The global comparison of LGBTQ+ rights demonstrates that progress is not linear or uniform across countries. Instead, it is shaped by a multitude of factors including cultural traditions, political landscapes, legal frameworks, and social movements. The alliance of local, national, and international advocacy groups is instrumental in advancing LGBTQ+ rights. Such alliances provide support, share strategies, and apply pressure through international human rights mechanisms to promote change in less accepting countries. It is important to note that even within countries that offer formal legal protections for LGBTQ+ rights, individuals may still face social stigma or discrimination in their daily lives. Legal rights do not automatically result in cultural acceptance, as deeply ingrained societal norms and prejudices can persist. The battle for true equality involves not only changing laws but also transforming societal attitudes so that all individuals, irrespective of their gender identity or sexual orientation, are treated with dignity and respect. Continued efforts to protect and expand LGBTQ+ rights are necessary to combat discrimination and violence. These efforts need to be multifaceted, considering the legal, political, and social dimensions of LGBTQ+ rights. NGOs, government bodies, and individual activists play a vital role in advocating for policies that foster equality and inclusion, while also educating the public to encourage a shift towards greater acceptance and understanding. It is clear that the comparison of LGBTQ+ rights across the globe reveals a complex and varied picture that is continuously evolving. Social, legal, and political advances in one part of the world can serve as models and instigate change in other regions. International solidarity and the sharing of best practices are crucial to supporting this global movement towards equality and human rights for all LGBTQ+ individuals. This ongoing process is an integral part of the broader struggle for universal human rights and highlights the interconnectedness of societies across borders in the pursuit of justice and dignity for every person. 6.8 Healthcare challenges in the LGBTQ+ community. The provision of healthcare to LGBTQ+ individuals in the United States continues to be a multifaceted challenge influenced by legislative, social, and economic factors. In examining these challenges, it is critical to consider numerous issues including access, discrimination, and the adequacy of training for healthcare providers. The disparities in healthcare outcomes for LGBTQ+ individuals when compared to the general population are substantial and multifarious. These disparities can lead to a higher prevalence of mental health disorders, HIV/AIDS, and certain types of cancer within the LGBTQ+ community. Moreover, transgender individuals face distinct medical challenges related to gender-affirming treatments such as hormone therapy and surgical interventions. Access to healthcare is a fundamental issue impacting LGBTQ+ individuals. Economic barriers, such as poverty and unemployment, disproportionately affect this community and consequently limit their access to comprehensive health insurance coverage. Even for those who are insured, issues of geographic location and provider availability can pose significant hurdles. Rural areas, in particular, may have a scarcity of providers who are knowledgeable and culturally competent in addressing the specific needs of LGBTQ+ patients. Healthcare access can be further impeded by policies that permit discrimination based on religious or moral objections, enabling providers to refuse care to LGBTQ+ individuals. Discrimination within healthcare settings can manifest in several ways, ranging from refusal to treat LGBTQ+ patients to insensitive or inappropriate communications. At times, healthcare practitioners may make assumptions about a patient's sexual behavior or gender identity, which can lead to inadequate or misinformed care. Additionally, encounters with discriminatory attitudes from both medical staff and other patients can deter LGBTQ+ individuals from seeking care until their conditions become acute, resulting in poorer health outcomes. Fear of discrimination can also contribute to a reluctance to disclose sexual orientation or gender identity, which can impede patient-provider communication and the delivery of tailored medical advice. The specific health needs of the LGBTQ+ community, particularly concerning sexual health and gender-affirmative treatments, require a healthcare workforce with specialized training. However, medical education often lacks comprehensive training about LGBTQ+ health issues. This training gap can leave healthcare providers ill-prepared to address the particular medical concerns of these patients, including hormone management, pre-exposure prophylaxis, PrEP, for HIV prevention, and the unique health screenings required by transgender individuals. Further, the healthcare needs of aging LGBTQ+ individuals, who may be more likely to face chronic health conditions and social isolation, emphasize the need for inclusive and informed healthcare provision throughout the lifespan. Mental health is another critical facet of healthcare for the LGBTQ+ community. The population faces a higher incidence of mental health disorders, including depression, anxiety, and substance abuse, often stemming from social stigma, discrimination, and victimization. Mental health outcomes are particularly concerning for LGBTQ+ youth, who may experience rejection from family members, bullying in schools, and other forms of social ostracism. Healthcare providers must be equipped to provide supportive, affirming care that addresses these mental health challenges and links patients with appropriate resources and services. For transgender and non-binary individuals, healthcare challenges include both the healthcare system's recognition and respect of their gender identity and the provision of gender-affirming care. The complexity of navigating insurance coverage for gender-affirming treatments complicates access to necessary medical procedures. Additionally, gender-affirming care is not solely about hormonal and surgical treatments. It also includes routine health screenings performed with sensitivity to the patient's gender identity. The lack of standardized guidelines for transgender healthcare can result in inconsistencies in care and insurance coverage, creating additional barriers. Sexual health is another salient aspect of LGBTQ+ healthcare. The community is at a heightened risk for sexually transmitted infections, STIs, including HIV. This risk is compounded by a lack of appropriate sexual health education tailored to LGBTQ+ individuals. Preventative services such as PrEP are essential tools in the reduction of HIV transmission rates within the community, yet many are unaware of their availability or encounter difficulties in obtaining prescriptions. Regular screenings for STIs are a crucial component of overall health for LGBTQ+ individuals, necessitating that healthcare providers create a welcoming environment that promotes open discussion about sexual behaviors and risks. Insurance coverage is a significant determinant of healthcare access and quality for LGBTQ+ individuals. The Affordable Care Act, ACA, made strides toward improving access for the LGBTQ+ community by banning the denial of coverage based on pre-existing conditions and extending dependent coverage to many young adults. However, gaps remain in coverage for LGBTQ+ specific services, including fertility treatments for same-sex couples and gender-affirming therapies for transgender individuals. Uncertainties around the legality and enforcement of these protections exacerbate the concerns of the community over their continued ability to access affordable and comprehensive healthcare. LGBTQ+ youth encounter particular healthcare challenges, often related to family support and confidentiality. Confidentiality is crucial, as many are not open about their sexual orientation or gender identity and fear the consequences of involuntary disclosure. Healthcare providers must navigate parental rights and the privacy needs of their underage patients while ensuring that LGBTQ+ youth receive accurate information and appropriate care. Addressing the needs of these youths is essential, as early intervention and support can have a positive impact on their long-term health and well-being. Lastly, Addressing healthcare challenges in the LGBTQ+ community requires a holistic approach that incorporates legal protections, education reforms, and societal shifts towards inclusivity and acceptance. Advocacy organizations continue to play a pivotal role in promoting LGBTQ+ health equity by raising awareness of disparities, guiding policy changes, and providing education for healthcare providers. Moving forward, it is imperative for healthcare professionals, policymakers, and society at large to understand and meet the needs of LGBTQ+ individuals, ensuring that all can access the quality healthcare they deserve without fear of discrimination or neglect. Developing a comprehensive response to the healthcare needs of the LGBTQ+ community necessitates a sustained commitment from all sectors of society. It involves creating inclusive policies, expanding access to culturally competent care, and fostering an environment in which LGBTQ+ individuals can seek services without stigma. The health of a community is a reflection of how it is valued and treated by society. Addressing the healthcare challenges faced by LGBTQ+ individuals is not just a matter of improving health outcomes, but also a step towards affirming their dignity and rights. 6.9 LGBTQ+ activism and community building. The landscape of LGBTQ+ rights and the accompanying activism have undergone significant evolution since the start of the 21st century. This period has seen milestones that have altered the social and legal standing of LGBTQ+ individuals in profound ways. LGBTQ+ activism is not a monolithic undertaking. It encompasses a range of strategies, purposes, and outcomes. Some activists work through legal channels, aiming to reform laws and policies to become more inclusive and protective of LGBTQ+ rights. Others take to the streets in protests and pride marches, creating visibility for their causes and communities. One major area of LGBTQ+ activism focuses on legal advocacy. Organizations such as the American Civil Liberties Union, ACLU, and Lambda Legal work tirelessly to litigate cases that challenge discriminatory laws and policies. Their work has resulted in numerous landmark court decisions, including the Supreme Court ruling in Obergefell v. Hodges, which made same-sex marriage legal across the United States. Legal advocacy also involves supporting plaintiffs in discrimination cases, filing amicus briefs to inform judicial decision-making, and lobbying for the passage of federal, state, and local laws that ensure equal protection under the law for LGBTQ+ individuals. Education and outreach are critical components of LGBTQ+ activism. Many activists and organizations endeavor to educate the public about LGBTQ+ issues and to promote understanding and acceptance. This might involve speaking at schools and universities, offering diversity training in workplaces, and creating informational campaigns aimed at debunking myths and misconceptions about LGBTQ+ individuals and experiences. Organizations such as the Gay, Lesbian, and Straight Education Network, GLSEN, work to make educational environments safer for LGBTQ+ youth by addressing bullying and advocating for inclusive school policies and curricula. Another significant aspect of LGBTQ+ activism is direct action and protest. From the early days of the Stonewall riots, visible, outspoken demonstrations have been a cornerstone of the fight for LGBTQ+ rights. Today's activists continue this legacy by organizing pride parades, protests, sit-ins, and other events that raise awareness and push for change. These actions serve to challenge societal norms, assert the presence and dignity of LGBTQ+ individuals, and mobilize community members and allies alike. Community building is an essential part of LGBTQ+ activism. Creating spaces where LGBTQ+ individuals can come together, share experiences, and support each other is crucial for fostering resilience and solidarity. Community centers, support groups, and social organizations play key roles in offering resources and a sense of belonging. These spaces not only provide emotional and social support, but can also offer health services, counseling, and assistance with issues such as homelessness and domestic violence, which disproportionately affect the LGBTQ+ population. International advocacy is another facet of LGBTQ+ activism. While some advancements have been made in the United States and other countries, many LGBTQ+ individuals around the world continue to face severe discrimination and persecution. International organizations like the International Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, Trans, and Intersex Association, ILGA, work to support the rights of LGBTQ+ people globally, campaigning for changes in laws and policies, providing resources for international activists, and raising awareness of human rights violations. Activists and organizations also put a significant amount of effort into political lobbying and campaigning. This involves endorsing LGBTQ-friendly political candidates, advocating for legislation that protects LGBTQ+ rights, and mobilizing the community to participate in the political process through voting and campaigning. Laws such as the Matthew Shepard and James Byrd Jr. Hate Crimes Prevention Act, which expanded federal hate crime law to include crimes motivated by a victim's actual or perceived gender, sexual orientation, gender identity, or disability, are a testament to successful political advocacy. In addition to advocating for protective laws and policies, LGBTQ+ activism includes working to combat the rollback of rights. In some cases, progress achieved through years of effort faces threats from political or social groups opposing LGBTQ+ equality. Activists must remain vigilant to protect existing rights from being undermined or repealed, whether this means challenging new policies that allow for discrimination under the guise of religious freedom or combating the enactment of bathroom bills that restrict transgender individuals' access to public facilities consistent with their gender identity. The role of the media in LGBTQ+ activism is multifaceted. LGBTQ+ activists have harnessed the power of both traditional and new media to disseminate their messages, share stories, and organize. Media representation is also a focus of activism, with advocates demanding more accurate and diverse portrayals of LGBTQ+ individuals in television, film, and other media outlets. This increased visibility can play a significant role in shaping public perception and can even influence policy decisions. Activism within the LGBTQ+ community also involves addressing intersecting issues of race, class, gender, and more. Recognizing that LGBTQ+ individuals are not a homogeneous group, activists work to ensure that the movement is inclusive and attentive to the different experiences and challenges faced by LGBTQ+ people of color, transgender individuals, immigrants, disabled people, and those from various socioeconomic backgrounds. Efforts to address these intersecting identities can take the form of specialized campaigns, diverse representation within organizations, and alliances with other social justice movements. Despite the strides made in LGBTQ+ rights and acceptance, challenges remain. The continuation of activism and community building is vital to sustaining progress and confronting new obstacles. LGBTQ+ activists will likely face ongoing resistance, but their work is fundamental to achieving a more inclusive and equitable society. This drive for equality, grounded in the belief that all individuals deserve to live with dignity and freedom, will continue to propel the LGBTQ+ movement forward in the quest for civil rights and social justice. 6.10 Legal battles and civil rights for LGBTQ+ individuals. The advancement of LGBTQ+ rights in the 21st century has been a complex blend of progress and setbacks as individuals and advocates have navigated the legal landscape. Early in the century, the United States bore witness to significant shifts towards the acceptance and affirmation of LGBTQ+ rights, particularly in the realm of marriage equality. With the Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court ruling in favor of same-sex marriage in 2003, a new era was catalyzed, setting the stage for future legal battles. The subsequent decade saw a domino effect, with various states passing laws to either permit or prohibit same-sex marriage. This patchwork of differing state laws created a disjointed legal framework, leading to an inevitable conflict that would need to be reconciled at the federal level. The critical turning point came with the landmark case Obergefell v. Hodges in 2015, which was brought before the Supreme Court after multiple lower court rulings on same-sex marriage bans. Advocates, plaintiffs, and their lawyers argued that the refusal to grant marriage licenses to same-sex couples violated basic constitutional rights, such as the Equal Protection Clause and the Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment. The resulting 5-4 decision in favor of the plaintiffs mandated the recognition of same-sex marriage nationwide, confirming that marriage is a fundamental right to be afforded to all couples, regardless of gender. However, despite this monumental victory, legal battles for the LGBTQ+ community have continued on multiple fronts. Advocates for LGBTQ+ rights have had to contend with issues such as workplace discrimination, healthcare disparities, and the rights of transgender individuals, including the contested use of bathrooms corresponding to gender identity. Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which prohibits employment discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, or national origin, has been a key legal tool in these matters. In various cases, courts have been asked to determine whether the protections against sex discrimination should extend to sexual orientation and gender identity. In 2020, the Supreme Court answered this question affirmatively in a consolidated group of cases including Bostock v. Clayton County, Georgia, ruling that an employer who fires an individual merely for being gay or transgender violates Title VII. This decision provided a strong federal-level prohibitor against employment discrimination, extending workplace protections to millions of LGBTQ+ Americans. While the ruling was celebrated as a significant win, it also highlighted an ongoing need for comprehensive civil rights legislation addressing the systemic inequalities faced by LGBTQ+ individuals. The proposed Equality Act exemplifies efforts to expand and solidify protections for the LGBTQ+ community in the United States. Intended to amend existing civil rights laws, the Act aims to prohibit discrimination on the basis of sex, sexual orientation, and gender identity. Various iterations of the Act have been circulating in Congress since the 1990s, reflecting a sustained push for equality. However, it has faced substantial opposition from conservative lawmakers and advocacy groups, who argue that such protections could infringe upon religious freedoms and lead to conflicts with existing rights. Supporters of the Equality Act maintain that the legislation is necessary to close legal loopholes and ensure that all individuals have equal access to housing, education, public spaces, and other areas of society, regardless of their LGBTQ+ status. The conflict over the Equality Act is indicative of the larger cultural and legal struggles surrounding the advancement of LGBTQ+ rights. While federal law has made strides in recognizing and protecting these rights, state-level actions often tell a different story. In recent years, numerous state legislatures have introduced bills that challenge the rights of the LGBTQ+ community, with a particular focus on transgender youth. These legislative proposals have sought to limit access to gender-affirming healthcare, impose restrictions on participation in sports, and dictate which bathrooms transgender individuals can use. Some have succeeded in becoming law, prompting legal challenges and public outcries from advocates and civil rights organizations. These legislative efforts not only threaten the progress made, but also further stigmatize an already vulnerable population. Legal battles at the state level often revolve around the balance between individual rights and religious liberties. In Masterpiece Cakeshop v. Colorado Civil Rights Commission, the Supreme Court grappled with the case of a Colorado baker who refused to create a wedding cake for a same-sex couple based on his religious beliefs. The court ruled in favor of the baker, but not on broad grounds of religious freedom. Instead, the decision was narrowly tailored, focusing on the specific actions of the Colorado Commission, which the court felt had exhibited hostility towards the baker's religious beliefs. This left the broader issue of refusal of service unanswered, suggesting future cases will continue to confront the tension between non-discrimination principles and religious convictions. In addition to these legal battles, the fight for LGBTQ+ rights also extends to the policymaking arena. Federal and state policies have oscillated with changes in political administration, signaling both forward movement and steps backward. For instance, under the Obama administration, the Department of Education issued guidance on Title IX, interpreting the prohibition of sex discrimination to include discrimination based on gender identity, thus supporting the rights of transgender students in educational settings. This guidance was subsequently rescinded under the Trump administration, illustrating the volatility of policies affecting LGBTQ+ rights and the impact of executive actions. Recent years have seen a renewed focus on the intersectionality within the LGBTQ+ community. Members who also identify with other marginalized groups, such as people of color, immigrants, or individuals with disabilities, face compounded discrimination and unique legal challenges. Thus, the ongoing struggle for equality for LGBTQ+ individuals is complex and requires an understanding of how intersecting identities affect experiences with injustice and oppression. Advocates are increasingly emphasizing the need for an inclusive approach that considers the multiple identities and varied lived experiences of individuals within the LGBTQ+ community. These varied legal battles and policy changes demonstrate that while substantial progress has been made in the realm of LGBTQ+ rights, the path forward is not linear. The journey towards full equality and acceptance is fraught with resistance, yielding a contentious and evolving legal landscape. Advocates for LGBTQ+ rights must navigate between moments of triumph and adversity, continuously engaging in the legal system to secure and defend the civil rights of LGBTQ+ individuals. The ongoing legal battles serve as a testament to the resilience of the LGBTQ+ community and the dedicated individuals who strive to ensure justice and equality for all, regardless of sexual orientation or gender identity. Significant strides have indeed been made in the domain of LGBTQ+ rights, yet it is important to recognize that the attainment of legal victories is not synonymous with the eradication of discrimination in all aspects of life. Even as legal protections expand, the cultural and societal acceptance necessary to truly realize these rights often lags behind. Social attitudes and prejudices can persist despite legal advancements, necessitating a multifaceted approach to advocacy that combines legal action with education and cultural engagement. Embracing this approach is essential for fostering sustainable change and prompting individuals, communities, and institutions to respect and uphold the rights of LGBTQ+ persons. As the legal landscape for LGBTQ+ rights continues to evolve, new challenges will inevitably emerge, requiring vigilance, adaptation, and a continued commitment to justice and equality. The preceding discussion illustrates the entanglement of progress and backlash within the American context, offering a legal, social, and political tapestry that reflects both the resilience and the vulnerability inherent to the LGBTQ+ rights movement. The work that lies ahead is not only a matter of changing laws, but also one of transforming the societal understanding of sexuality and gender, dismantling long-standing prejudices, and building an inclusive culture that honors and respects diversity in all its forms.